Good morning, everyone. Have you ever been in a situation where your camera just gives you the wrong exposition? Your subject is either overexposed or underexposed, you cannot see the silhouettes, or on the contrary, you only see silhouettes? Well, it can be really confusing sometimes, but I have a technique for you that will help you really nail the right exposition no matter what you're doing. And this in just the press of a button. So make sure you watch this video until the end because I will also reveal how you can program that in your own camera. Let's get started. Alright, I'm on a beautiful trip in Thailand right now, and I gotta say, something I'm using or something I'm thinking about a lot is how do I get the right exposures when I'm using my favorite photography modes, which are aperture priority, which help me control only the depth of field, and the camera takes care of the ISO and the shutter speed. The S mode also, TV, which allows me to only control the shutter speed, which will tell me if my subject is frozen or if it's all blurry. That's a great mode, especially for action stuff. Everything else is being handled by the camera automatically. And the manual mode with ISO auto that helps me control both the shutter speed, the aperture, meaning my depth of field, and how frozen I want my subject to be, but the ISO is left up to the camera. In those modes, what happens is that the camera has to use its measuring modes in order to get an idea of how to expose the photo, right? But sometimes it's kind of off. So let's say I want to do a silhouette, and the camera is actually blowing up everything to get my subject bright enough for me to see it, or the contrary, I want the subject to be bright but the camera is doing a silhouette. That happens a lot, but with a simple little button you can change everything instantly without having to change that exposure compensation button here, without having to change your ISO manually, without having to change anything else. And it's something I use all the time. But if you don't know me, first of all, my name is Pierre Lambert. I'm a travel adventure photographer and the creator of the 30-day adventure to great photos, a step-by-step method for taking your photography to the next level. We're working on your eyes, how you observe, visualize, and capture a photo, meaning everything that happens in your brain in order for you to take photos that you love and know how to process them to have results that really are impactful. If you want to learn more, check out the link in the description. And on this YouTube channel, I'm also sharing photography adventures and tutorials, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see the next one. And if you're ready, let's talk about this little tiny button right here called AEL. AEL stands for Auto Exposure Lock. It allows you to literally lock your exposure. So let's say I point my camera in one of the semi-auto mode or with ISO auto mode towards a bright area, and I press that button. As long as I press it, it's gonna keep that exposure. It's gonna keep all the parameters the same, but now I can focus however I want, I can recompose however I want, and this won't change until I release that EL button. Why would I use this? Well, let's say I want to do a silhouette, or I don't want to do a silhouette, or my subject is in the shadow. Well, I would just point my camera toward the shadow, hold that button so that the shadows are properly exposed, then recompose to get both the bright part of my image and the shadows, whatever I wanted, and then I click the photo and that's it. And maybe I refocus if I need to focus, etc. It gets a little tricky to use it sometimes. Why? Because if you're using back button focus, like I absolutely love to do, and I have a full video explaining back button focus for you that you can watch after, well, you can see it's a little bit of a gymnastic to actually move from AEL to AF on and hold both at the same time. So in order to compensate that, we are going to reprogram this button in a second together to actually go from hold to toggle. Let me explain. You can just press once and then you can press on your AF button. You can do a lot of things without having to worry about changing that button again. So how do you program that? You go to Operation Customize, Custom Key Dial Setting on Sony, and for number 1, I'm going to change it from AEL hold to AEL toggle. And now I just simply press once and it keeps that exposure, those parameters in memory, and now I can refocus, I can press, it's all working perfectly. And the moment I don't want it anymore, I just press that button. Super simple, super easy, saves me a lot of time on the film, should save you a lot of time also. I recommend you trying it. This is the best way to get a hang of it and see if you like it or not. I find it easier than moving that little wheel to compensate the exposure with plus, minus, 1, etc. Because when you compensate the exposure also, if you point somewhere else, it's going to adapt again, it's going to change, right? Versus that AEL lock will keep the same parameters completely fixed no matter where you're pointing, which is why it's an advantage over the rest. Now, if you're confused about camera settings for street photography, for everyday, for landscape, for night photography, I have a little cheat sheet that you can grab and take with you on the field. It's going to save you a lot of time. And if you want to learn more about those measuring modes, which to me is essential, watch this video. And if you want to go further on the back button focus, understand why it's there and how is it helpful, watch that video. Now, with that being said, get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. This was a quickie about that technique that I love, and I hope you will find it helpful. Ciao.